Hello, and welcome to Airica on Air. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, and come chat with me. Today we have a special guest in here. It is my son, Greene. He's 17 years old. And just recently at our church, Greene was asked to do the sermon. It was an abbreviated sermon, and they told him to talk about 10 minutes. The lesson was so impactful. I loved it. I was so proud of him. So I asked him if he would come and share it on the podcast because it helped me. And I know a lot of other people said it helped them. And so I wanted you guys to have the opportunity to hear it as well.
Over the past year and a half, I've had a lot of anxiety and stress, and it's took a toll, and it's affected me physically, made me sick. And I think I didn't know at the time what to do about it or how to fix it. And so once I finally figured out that turning to God helps, I want other people to know.
And then also, do you feel like that a lot of people think that if you have anxiety going on, that you have a purpose for it? Like you found out you had cancer or you had parents getting a divorce. It doesn't take something huge or even anything at all to cause anxiety, does it?
At first, I had really no idea why I was so anxious and worried and stressed all the time. I finally started believing that I thought it was grades and schooling. I thought I was really just stressed always about being perfect in all the things that I did. But messing up's not the end of the world. And messing up's good because you can learn from it. Everybody messes up. And you're never going to be perfect. And when you strive to be perfect and you're so worried about messing up, it causes you to mess up more than if you just weren't as stressed. Back in probably November was the worst was late November, early December. It was like I felt like I was in a pit that I couldn't crawl out of, and I just felt like everything was just knocking me down and that I didn't have anybody to turn to. And I felt like if I did turn to somebody for it that I was almost putting that stress and worry on them, so that it wouldn't just be on me anymore. It'd be on more than just me, and so it would just make it worse. But that's not true. It's not true at all. And you can always put it on God, you know.
We have to remind ourselves of that no matter what age we are, that there's just things come up and again, just nothing at all. And then you just feel anxious and aren't sure why.
Yeah, for sure. Matthew chapter 6, verse 25. I'm going to read some from it. Starting in verse 25, it says, "Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Which of you by worrying can add 1 cubit to his stature? So why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Now if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For after all these things the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble."
It took me even, and I was much older when I realized that you can give him everything. I thought that it had to be a really major thing to give it to God. Like, it's not big enough to give to God, but I had to learn, even small things. Like for me, I was anxious to start this podcast or make a business decision, or you can give anything to God. When I was wondering if it was time to start a family, if financially we could do it, everything that's on your heart and mind, you really can give it to him, and it gets it out of your heart and mind. It gives it to him, and it really does allow you more space to breathe and to feel secure when you've already given it to him.
Yeah, and it gives you more energy. Like in those different months those months where I was so stressed and worried all the time, I didn't realize it because it was all just mental. It wasn't like I was physically wearing myself out, working out or something like that. But it really does take a toll on you.
I think more than physically, like more than working out would.
Yeah, it does. It really, like, at the end of the day, you could have done nothing and you were sitting there stressing all day and you're just as tired as if you had been working out and doing sports and everything. And it really takes a toll on your confidence.
I had more issues with anxiety when I was your age, when I was in my teenage years and 20s than I do now. And the truth is I have more things to be anxious about now. But you like grow in your faith and you finally learn this and how to handle it. And so you just get through it. But once you've had anxiety attacks like we both have and so many of the world battle today, and that's why I wanted my son to share this with y'all from a 17-year-old perspective, not just from a 43-year-old, is once you've been through this kind of stuff, you have so much different empathy for someone else going through it. You can tell how it does physically affect them and those around them too.
Just because you're going through a hard time now, if you get over that hard time, it's not just over. Like, that part of your life is over, but you're always going to have stresses and you're always going to have worries. You know, me and you are different ages and we both still have worries and different stresses and different things that are important to us right now. You know, you tell me not to stress it as much about my grades and stuff, but they seem like a bigger deal to me. And so you can't just learn how to get through the one anxiety or stress that's wearing you down. You have to learn how to get through all of them through your life.
And I think you learn to get through them easier because you've been through so many and you saw he got you through those and you're like, listen, he got me through that. I can get through anything.
God's going to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
If you give it to him, it's going to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm. I try to say, if you, Lord willing, that never happens, but you could lose everybody, lose everyone in your family, and you still have hope. And and there's nothing else can compare to that. There's no amount of money compared to
that. My sermon the other night was great. I think my favorite part about it was after I got to talk to everybody. And I felt like it was pretty good. I felt like some people, I think it touched some people's heart. Mm-hmm. I had some older people in the church come talk to me, some of the elderly, about that's what they needed to hear, which kind of surprised me because I felt like once they got to that stage, it wouldn't be as bad because they were kind of settling down, but they were saying how it's just as bad for them, worrying all the time and stressing. So that warmed my heart knowing that they needed it.
You worry right now about the decisions you're making for your own personal life. Just imagine when it's your kids you're worried with too.
Yeah.
And your grandkids. And that's when the state that they're in. Already pray for who y'all marry one day and your home and your children, because you really just multiply the people that you love and you have a opportunity to worry about. So if you don't have that foundation set with him, you're going to feel very weak at a lot of moments.
You need to trust in God's path that he's leading you on and not just think about it as your own, like just what you understand, because God knows so much more than you do. God knows if you're going to go through this hard time and then after this hard time, it was a blessing in disguise, and it's going to teach you that it's okay to go through hard times and that you're going to get knocked down, but that you know that you can get through it, or maybe you go through that hard time and it teaches you a lesson. Maybe the friend group you were in, you don't need to be, or the relationship you were in you don't need to be with them anymore. You don't know everything that you're going to go through, and you don't know the whole picture of everything that you're already going through. God does. The people around you don't either. Your friends, I go to my friends with a lot of stuff, but they don't know everything. It's good to be able to talk to somebody about it, but they're not going to be able to give you all the answers.
Yeah.
And so just being able to pray and be able to lean on somebody who's going to listen, because he's going to listen, and trust in him, it's great.
Paul Jay sit in front of me at church, and he was 80 at the time, and we were talking in Bible class, and he spoke out loud, and he said, I'm 80 and I still have temptations. Mm-hmm. And I thought, got older, there's no, we get through the teenage years, then you don't have temptations. Then you think, well, in my 20s, I got through those, there'll be no temptations. I'm married now, I got kids. What could you have temptation? The devil never stops working. And that's what he was saying. He was like, you have temptations till the day you die. So you have to learn how to conquer those. It's just different temptations. And so he might start tempting you through your kids and through different things, finances, different opportunities that the devil's seeking.
we'll always be tempted by the devil, especially at our weakest moments.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we need God the most. Like, I tried to do everything on my own, and it just made it worse because I overthink a lot, and I procrastinate everything, and I always make whatever situation I'm in 10 times worse because I think of the worst outcomes. And once you do that a lot, sometimes they become a reality. But nothing's going to be life or death, and God's not going to give you anything you can't handle. 1 Peter 5:7 says, 6 says, therefore humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, and he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. God cares about us. He's going to take care of us.
If you had told me in 10 years from now, this person in your family is going to be divorced, this person is going to be an atheist, you're going to have lost your grandfather, tragically, you're going to have lost your grandmother, I would have thought, then just take me. I can't handle this. There's no way I could handle all of that stuff. When truthfully, God walked us through it in every format, and the thought of it was worse than when it really happened. Like, I worried that I couldn't handle it, but he helped me handle it through every bit of it. And so, you know, if you know your future, you don't think you can handle it. But if you've learned to just give it to him and not think ahead of it, then he will take care of all of it.
Psalm 1 talks about how you need to stay strong in your faith, and like a tree by the water, it's strong with the roots, that if you're really strong in your faith, when the storms come and the temptations come, you're still going to be there. And then it talks about how the people who aren't as strong in their faith can get into, you know, peer pressure, stuff like that, and they can be drawn away. And so that's what I was going to preach over. But then after going through everything, I wanted to do the worrying. And he said that he's had some dental work done with Dad, and that the stuff that's going on is because he is always stressed and clenching. And he was saying how everybody needs a worrying and anxiety sermon. He said when he preaches them, he feels like that's when the most people tell him that that's what they needed to hear. I made a chart about 2 years ago. I shared it in my lesson on the board from Carrie. He had a lesson at our church about 2 years ago over worrying and anxiety, and I had a lot of notes on it, and I made a chart. And the chart's got some boxes. The top box says, do you have a worry? And then it's got 2 answer choices, and the answer choices are yes or no. And if you do have a worry, then it goes down to more questions. And then if you don't have a worry, it goes all the way down to the bottom. But if you said you do have a worry, then the next question is, can you do something about it? So is there something that you can do about the thing that you're worried about? So if it was a test or a business meeting that you had and it was a big deal, could you study for it? Could you game plan? You know, or if somebody was sick, could you get the medication for them? Whatever. If there's something you can do about the thing that you're stressing about, get up and start doing it. You know, don't procrastinate it. And then below, it's the can you do something about it, or the answer choice is yes or no. If you can do something about it, then get up and do it. And then why worry about it?
Right.
If you can't do anything about it, then why worry about it? It's out of your control.
But it's hard to do in that moment.
It's hard to do in that moment. It's a lot easier said than done. But it is good to have it to look at. Because that it helps clear your mind.
You know, we were talking earlier about the devil knows how to get you. Mine was anxiety. That's how the devil worked on me in my younger years. And I could just let my mind run wild. I mean, if I heard an ambulance, I had already seen a family member in an accident. They lost their life. I just let it just totally escalate. And that was all the devil. And it was actually Carrie's wife. She's since passed, and she was my Bible school teacher, and she gave us so much wisdom, and especially when she was on hospice. She was the best teacher she had ever been in that time, and everything was so raw and real. And she shared with us, she was like, I physically just say at times, get behind me, Satan, out loud. And I've caught myself doing that so much when you do have those moments that you are so anxious, and I do it with you, about you guys. You know, your worst fear as a parent's losing a kid, and you think worry till your kids start to drive it, and you just you try to give them your trust, but then you also want to watch 360 24 hours a day because you're their provider. You carry them, I just feel all that sense of responsibility for you more than my own self. And so when I let my mind start escalating like it used to about worry and just, that what if I let my kids go here, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And those of you who have anxiousness know exactly what I'm talking about. I just say, get behind me, Satan. No, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to think happy thoughts. God's took care of me so far. He's going to take care of me in the future. And I just physically say that.
Yeah. And going along with the Romans 8 about how at the end it'll all be worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Revelation chapter 21, verse 4 says, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, no sorrow, nor crying. There shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away. That's how it'll be like in heaven.
Mm-hmm. The more people you've lost, the more special heaven seems. And I've heard older people tell me they yearn for it. My grandmother, ironically, it was just like 6 months before she actually passed away. And at the time, we thought she was perfectly healthy and great. And we were both actually spending the day outside. It was a beautiful day, just talking about life. And we had talked about Paul that day. He had died that year. And we were just sitting around talking. And she said, I've been missing a lot of people that's been gone before me. And it's kind of like that was on her heart even more. The people who had passed on, just yearning to see them and be there. And she said she'd never wanted to be there so bad. And she hated it for the people she'd be leaving here, but she hated it for us, not for her. She's ready to go on. And I'm like, what else? I don't know how people live that don't have God in their life, that has the hope of hereafter. I don't know how they overcome losing somebody to not think they had a chance of seeing them again.
Yeah.
Because that promise is so good.
And like knowing that you had somebody that died that was Christian and faithful, and knowing that they're somewhere better it's selfish in a way to miss them, because you know that where they are is so much better.
They wouldn't come back if they could.
But you do miss them.
Yeah. I loved in your sermon too, the part you were talking about what's important and what's a worry to one person might not be to another. But like you were talking about the ice cream cone.
Yeah, I was saying how like a little kid might have an ice cream cone and they drop their ice cream cone and that's the end of the world to them. Like that's a huge deal. And in that moment, that's the biggest thing that's just happened. And to us, as older teenagers or as adults, it's not as big of a deal. It's just an ice cream cone. You can go get one again. But to the kid, it's a huge deal. And I might have something in my life, like my grades or sports or success in some way, that I just think I need to do this, I need to be perfect, and I go fail this test, and it's the end of the world to me. But to other people, they might have failed that test too, and they just really don't. It's not that big of a deal to them. Mm-hmm. We all have things that are, warranted for us to be upset about. To us, we think that it makes sense for us to be that upset about. But in reality, they're all little things compared to, our soul and everything in the big picture.
And I think that's why, the Bible tells us to seek wisdom from the elderly, someone that's older than you. Gosh, now I wish I could be a sponge to older people and just soak it all in, because I've realized how much they were right. At my age now, 40s, you've already seen how much they were right. But like if John Crew broke a toy right now, he loves some of his toys, loves them. I mean, to him, he's going to be tore up. And that's the end of the world for him in that moment. And like so many teenagers, they don't make the cheerleading squad, or they don't make the team, the basketball team or the baseball team when they're in school. They lose all their confidence in that moment, and they think it's the end of the world, that they're not going to be a part of that team that year, when someone my age can look at them and say, I promise you, you're going to see why one day.
Yeah.
There's a big picture for this. It's just hard for you to see in the moment. We ache for you because we know like their heart's broke in that moment. But like if there's a teenager listening to this out there, if you could just know and hang on to that promise that we've lived it, we've got through it. I know I seek to people in their 60s and 70s to tell me, what did you do in your 40s? How did you get through this moment?
Yeah. And they don't know that it can be a good thing, that they didn't make the team, or that they didn't, pass that or get into this group or whatever, because it can all be, they don't see the end result of it.
The blessing.
Yeah.
It's really true that the moments I've grown the most in life's been through the hard ones.
Yeah.
Been through death or my heart condition or losing a child. I mean, it really, like a miscarriage, those are the moments that build the character you are and helps you overcome things.
You realize that you need to get your priorities in check.
You're right. It's a reminder. My best friend told me this one time, and Sierra, and it stuck with me. And she said, it's a reminder that this isn't heaven.
Mm-hmm.
If this was heaven, we wouldn't be trying to live so good.
Yeah.
This isn't heaven. We have to have the good and the bad to know we're working to get there.
At first, when I was going through all these hard times, I thought that the opposite of what I needed was no anxiety or no stress at all. And that the opposite of anxiety was just none, but it's not. I saw this online and I wrote it down. I changed it a little bit, but it says the opposite of anxiety isn't having none at all. It is learning how to deal with it through God and finding peace only He can give. You can't have that peace through anybody else or through anything else. But having none at all also isn't a good thing. Having no stress or no worry at all. If you're not stressed or worried, then you're not caring enough about certain things. There's certain things that you shouldn't take and make it as big of a deal as you do. But there are some things you need to stress and you need to worry about. Your soul. You do need to be worried about that.
Character.
Yeah, your character. Not how people see you, but how you treat people.
Not your reputation.
No.
Reputation's how people see you, but your character, that's who you truly are.
Yeah.
You get to decide that.
And Dad said something before the sermon the other night that I've been thinking about a lot. He said he was talking to Brad, who's also one of our preachers, and he was saying how he's talked to other dentists, and they were talking about their job and all their success that they've had with their job and their legacy that they've built through their job. And he was saying how he thinks that there's two different kinds of people. When you talk about legacy, there's the people that talk about how they made so much money doing, whatever their job was. And then there's the people that talk about their kids and what they're leaving behind through their kids and their kids' character and their kids' personality. Mm-hmm. And he was like, me being a dentist in a small town isn't my legacy. It's you. And that was, a big deal to me.
I've heard him say that multiple times. Your life is preaching.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a missionary that goes somewhere off to make a difference. You can be a missionary in your area. Same goes for being a preacher. Your life you're living right now, Greene, is preaching. You did awesome delivering a sermon, but it's your lifestyle right now also that's just making the biggest preaching lesson to someone.
And I think one of the hardest things to do at my age is being a Christian every day and not just being a Christian Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. Being a Christian in the field house before baseball games. Mm-hmm. After you strike out, it's hard.
It's a lot easier when the people around you have the same mindset. But that's when the devil's working the most, because he knows that he's got you in a situation. Another thing though is you got to show yourself grace. Uh-huh. And that's something so many people are fearful of being a Christian, is thinking, I got to be perfect. No, you don't. None of us are perfect. None of us are. God told us that we're not going to be. And so when we do mess up, which I still mess up often, when you do mess up, it's how you handle that, and it's like fixing it, that it's okay. Okay.
You're a Christian. You're not Christ.
That's right.
This was perfect. Right.
Yep.
You're not going to be perfect. But it's okay to mess up. You just got to know that when you do mess up, you got to correct it.
Thank you so much, Greene. Someone this week that I look up to so much was paying you a compliment. They said, if you knew how much I brag on your son to other people in my day-to-day life and my work. They said, because we do live in a small town, and he's an athlete, class president, and been very involved with different things and social. And a lot of times the people who do that don't always stand up and preach, and that's not a priority in their life. And they said, because of using that little bit of example and making Christ your main example, and not that you're perfect, you've made mistakes too. If any of your friends are listening to this, they would know that too, and that's okay. I wasn't perfect either. I'm still not. So but they know that where you're coming from, your priorities, your heart, and that you give it so much of your time to the Lord. So that's awesome. Thank you for using that example for that.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Your dad and I are so proud of you.